Arts Festival, a celebration of contemporary performance happening now through June 30th at pivotarts.org/festival. So check out our website. There's lots of great performance videos, live streams, discussions happening all through this week and then through the month of June. I'm so delighted to welcome Henry Gardenias, resident director of the Goodman Theater and artistic director of the Goodman's Latino Theater Festival, who is interviewing our very esteemed Senator Richard Durbin today, who's been a huge supporter of the Dreamers. So I'm going to hand it over to Henry and Senator Durbin. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for, I know this is an incredibly tumultuous time, and Pivot Arts, all of us really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I also want to start on a personal note, thanking you. I'm an associate artist at the Goodman Theater and was the director of the Latino Theater Festival for many years. And God bless you and your office helped us get a remarkable company from Cuba here, the first time that they had performed in the United States. And it was a huge, huge deal. And so thank you for that.
Happy to do it.
It was amazing. And I was also on the board of Albany Park Theater Project, which I know you have been very supportive of. And no one knows more about working with young people and doing art that speaks to the issue of DACA than Albany Park Theater Project. So thank you for all of that, everything you do for Illinois. You're amazing. And we really appreciate you. So we thought it would be interesting to begin by asking you, because you're so supportive and so passionate of this issue, about this issue, that we were just curious about the genesis of your passion for DACA and immigration in general.
Well, it all starts with one woman. This is my mother's naturalization certificate.
Oh my God.
To this country from Lithuania, brought here at the age of 2, and I keep this behind me in my office here in Washington as a reminder of who I am. I am the son of an immigrant mother who came to this country at the age of 2, and whose mother did not speak English, and somehow that son of that immigrant woman became a senator from the United States.
God, isn't that amazing?
That's my story, but it's my family's story. It's America's story.
It is America's story.
Never forget it. And when I came to know these Dreamers and what they were up against, it was a Korean girl, a young woman from Korea, brought here, overstayed her visitor's visa at the age of 2 or 3, and stayed in this country and grew up here and had a remarkable musical talent, went through the Merit Music Program, which you may know about. And was on her way to either Juilliard or Manhattan Conservatory of Music, and then discovered she was undocumented. Didn't know what to do next. Her mother called our office, and we looked at the law, and the law is brutal. It says under those circumstances she has to leave the United States for 10 years and apply to come back. 10 years. Here she was, 17 or 18 years old, never remembered living anywhere else. So I introduced the DREAM Act, and I've tried for 20 years to pass it, but luckily along the way, a friend of mine by the name of Barack Obama, an executive order called DACA, which took young girls and boys like her and gave them a chance. Said, step forward, register, pay your fee, go through a background check, and we'll protect you for 2 years at a time from being deported, and we'll give you a legal right to work. So that passed, and then came this new president. I begged him the first minute I ever met him, said, please do what you can to help these young people. He promised he would, but sadly he didn't. He abolished DACA. It is now being tested in the US Supreme Court. We could know any day as to whether or not it's going to be changed or abolished.
Well, God bless you. What an incredible story. Just real quickly, I myself am a naturalized American citizen. My family came from Cuba when I was 3. And my mother raised 10 children, working 2 jobs until I graduated from high school. I'm the second to youngest. And now her son is a professor at Northwestern University and getting to talk to a senator of, the United States. So
I'll show you one more thing. there's a little piece of paper. I'm sure you can't see it. There's a little piece of paper in this corner. So when I asked my mother when she was still alive for a copy of this naturalization certificate, pulled it out of the envelope, and this little piece of paper came out. And I said, Mom, what is this? And she says, that is the receipt for my filing fee, $2.50. And I said, why did you keep that? And she said, if the government ever questioned me, I can prove that I paid my filing fee. So I kept that.
Always keep your receipts. There's the lesson.
That's right. Immigrant moms.
God, that's so amazing. Well, you mentioned the Supreme Court. So what do you think? Do you have a sense of what the ruling might be or where it might go? It seems like John Roberts, once again, could be the deciding factor.
It could be. And I personally believe that Mr. Trump and his friends do not want to face this issue in the next 5 months. This is a hard issue for them because he took an unreasonable, unjust position from my point of view. And now, if it goes through and his abolishing it is held up, then literally 800,000 people are subject to deportation. It's just that basic. Among them, 41,000 healthcare workers who are currently working on COVID-19, thousands and thousands of those who are in essential work for our nation at this moment, and they could be deported. They would lose their legal right to work immediately. Included are about 30 medical students at Loyola Stritch College of Medicine who were accepted as DACA protected and went through medical school and now want to do their residencies to move on to become doctors and to serve in needed areas. A residency is a job. You cannot legally work if you're undocumented. And so they would be forced to quit their residencies at this point in their medical education. There'll be thousands of stories just like that. And I don't think the Trump administration wants to deal with that before November 3rd, but they may be forced to. And if necessary, we'll fight back.
Good. Well, if, depending on which way it were to go, what do you think the future will be if the Supreme Court upholds the President Trump's decision? Do you think that he would look to leverage that with people like you to pass some of his other immigration issues that are frankly disturbing?
No. I think, frankly, the issue of immigration is so fundamental to his base support that he is unlikely to compromise it. He's continued to publicize this fiction that these young people are a threat to American workers. They are not. And we're in a situation with some 40 million Americans unemployed. So the president is going to exploit it all the way through to November. American public sentiment is strongly on our side for DACA and for Dreamers. Democrats, Republicans, and Independents believe these young people should be given a chance. And I just want to add a postscript here. When you get involved in politics and standing up for a group of people, you always think in the back of your mind, somebody in that group is going to break my heart. They're going to get up tomorrow and do something that is embarrassing or wrong. And they're going to come back to me and say, Durbin, why would you support such a group that includes that kind of person? I'll tell you, after all these years, with all the Dreamers and all the DACA recipients, that's never happened. It has never happened. Knock on wood, the fact is, these are wonderful, good people who somehow endured a life of fear that they or their family would be deported and continued to work hard toward a goal that they weren't sure they would ever reach, of being an American citizen and having success in our country. So I really, one of the major reasons I'm running for re-election is because my promise to them. We've been through 20 years of this together, and I've told them many times, I'm not giving up on you, don't give up on me. I'm gonna get this done.
God bless you. Well, I don't think they will give up on you. I think the state of Illinois needs you, and we're so lucky to have you. And thank you for fighting this fight for us.
Before we close, one little postscript or footnote.
Please.
That Korean girl's name was Teresa Lee. She ended up going to the Manhattan Conservatory of Music. She didn't qualify for any federal assistance to go to college, but Joan Harris, you know Joan Harris of the dance theater?
Yes.
Paid for her education. She ended up completing her education at Manhattan Conservatory of Music. She played piano in Carnegie Hall, and she now has a PhD in music. She's married, an American citizen, and has 2 little children. So the story ended well, but she was my inspiration.
It's so amazing. And as always, it's the story of the ripples, because think of all the students that she will then in turn influence, and all of the great young people that will come out of her, their interactions with her. And that is the, the crazy thing, the tragedy of this issue is that you have no idea the possibilities for America that immigrants bring. I mean, history shows us that it's great and profound, right? You, me in my modest way, it's the history of America.
Who we are.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Senator Durbin. We really appreciate it, and I wish you all the best. And certainly, if I can ever do anything to support you, all you need to do is let me know.
You're doing it. Thank you for the interview.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much to Senator Durbin and to Henry Gardenias for being with us. What an honor to have you both as our guests. This event is part of the Pivot Arts Festival. You can learn more about the festival at pivotarts.org/festival. And coming up next is a short trailer of Lydia Aravallo's film, Alpharaoh. She toured around the country with Alex Alpharaoh on his national tour of his show Wet, a documented journey. And she created a film about his experience and his experience being undocumented, which you can view on our website at pivotarts.org/festival. We're going to show you a trailer here tonight, and then we have Lydia and Alex in conversation with us.
The idea to do this show came to me when I was actually in Guatemala. I had traveled with advanced parole, and I was not sure if I was going to come back. And I made a promise with God. I said that if I made it back home, if I came back home, this was the story that I was going to tell. See, I was told that there was light at the end of the tunnel, but it may be my turn to be told to go, turn away from the only home that I know. If I ask where to, the reply, I don't know. Regardless, you shouldn't have been here in the first place.
Writer and actor Alex Alpharaoh joins me now. He's recently awarded the 2018 Best Solo Performance by the LA Drama Critics Circle, his one-man show, Wet, a Documented Journey. Congratulations, and it's great to meet you, Alex.
Thank you.
So show, as I said, is about your journey. It began here as a 3-month-old from Guatemala, right?
That is correct. Before I did this show, nobody knew what my immigration status in the country was. Everyone assumed that I was born here. I was going to basically come out to my entire artistic community. Let's get started with our crazy eights. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, woo! Being undocumented oftentimes is an afterthought for me. I think about it early in the morning when I wake up and I go, shit, is today the day that I'm gonna get caught up and get deported? And I think about it at night. Thank God that today was not the day that I got caught up and I got deported. Doing the show it's literally exercising of my demons. The artist in me wants full houses every night. I want the biggest venues. I want hundreds of thousands of people, even millions if possible, to see this show. The human being, me, the person, Alex Alpharaoh, just kind of don't want anyone to see it.
I believe in a right to live. Family number one, and for them I'll be giving all I have to give. I know it's hard to see the answers. These politicians do us wrong. They say that we bring in disaster, but we are Latino strong. And I'm like, they wanna stereotype and fight us, they wanna bury us in
Hi, everybody. If you've just joined, I want to welcome you. My name is Julianne Ayre. I am the director of Pivot Arts, and this event is part of the Pivot Arts Festival. This year, an online celebration of contemporary performance happening at pivotarts.org/festival. You can watch performance videos on our website through June 30th. And I'm so happy to be here today with Los Angeles-based performer Alex Alpharaoh and filmmaker Lydia Alvaro. Hey, you guys, so great to see you.
Hey.
Hi.
Thanks for joining me today. I know that these are some, pretty tumultuous times right now, and I'm just really grateful to be in community and in conversation with both of you. Just kind of a little bit of background, just so folks know, we were planning to bring Alex in to perform his one-man show, Wet, a documented journey about his experience being DACA status, or a non-citizen who was brought here at a young age. And because we're not able to bring Alex here live, we are so fortunate that Lydia actually made a documentary about the national tour of his show. So we'll be showing Lydia's documentary, Alpharaoh, on our website, and just talking about really both of your experience with being undocumented and bringing attention to what's happening right now with the Supreme Court about to rule. So why don't we start with you, Alex? Can you just tell us a little bit about your personal history?
Sure. I'm an Angelino. I was brought to the United States by my 15-year-old unaccompanied minor of a mother when I was just 3 months old, and I was raised in Los Angeles, California. It's been my home for the entirety of my life. I had a pretty assimilated childhood and upbringing. I was a latchkey kid. I went to public school. I grew up on, government cheese and meals at the school. My parents were hardworking immigrants. My mother, became a citizen when she was maybe about 30 years old. And the irony is that even though I was undocumented as a child, I became the only person in my entire family without a status. So I was the outlier in my family, and I was the person who made my family mixed status, which is the term that is generally used now to describe families that have individuals that in their families that don't have any status or have mixed status in the country. And so being the only undocumented individual in my entire family, including, siblings and aunts and uncles, cousins, distant relatives, immediate relatives, made my upbringing very interesting, because I, like I said, I grew up having a quote unquote normal childhood, but it was a childhood full of poverty. It was a childhood full of a lot of domestic violence and a lot of alcohol and drugs, and growing up in the streets after my parents separated when I was a child. So not having a status in the country didn't really affect me until I became a legal adult, until I turned 18 years old. And then I realized that I couldn't get a job, I couldn't get a driver's license, I couldn't get an apartment, I couldn't get a bank account. A lot of the things that people take for granted on a day-to-day basis were things that I desperately needed in my youth and I wasn't able to have until I was about maybe 30 years old, when I was approved for my first work permit through deferred action for childhood arrivals back in 2013. And that's kind of where my journey begins in the story of Wet, a Documented Journey. And then we fast forward in time to the 2016 elections, which then a series of events occurred that caused me to have to go back to Guatemala, which is the country where I was born, to visit a dying grandfather and hopefully be able to make it back to the States in an attempt to adjust my status in the country.
Wow. So when did you first learn that you were undocumented? Did you know as a child, or?
Well, as a child, I was always told that if I didn't behave, that I was going to get sent back to Guatemala. So that was like the worst punishment that, you know, as a child I could hear. Just like, oh, you know, Guatemala was like, you know, it was like hell. It was like the boogeyman's lair. It was the worst place that you can think of, you know. So I had to be a good kid. If not, they were going to send me back. I think I was maybe about 5 years old or 6 years old the first time that I realized that there was something wrong with me. And that's how I, you know, that's how I internalized it. My cousin was going to SeaWorld for the first time, and she was really excited, and she wanted me to go with her to SeaWorld, and she asked her mom, my auntie, who was my father's sister, and said, hey, can Alex go with us to SeaWorld? And my auntie looked at me and scolded me, and she said that I couldn't go to SeaWorld in San Diego, California, because on the way back from San Diego, they have a checkpoint in the city of San Clemente. And if they discovered that I didn't have papers, they were gonna send me back to Guatemala and I wouldn't be able to come back. And I remember asking my father if I could have papers. And he said that we couldn't because we didn't belong in the country. And that was the first time that I had some kind of understanding that I was here, quote unquote, illegally, that I didn't belong here. And then again, when I was maybe about 12 years old, I wanted to get a part-time job over the summer. And I asked my father to fill out the form for me because I needed a social security number, and I didn't know my social security number. And my father handed the form back to me, and he said that I couldn't get a summer job. And when I asked him why, he said that I didn't have a social security number. So I said, well, why can't we just go get me a social security number? And he said, well, because they only give social security numbers to US citizens, and you're not a US citizen because you weren't born here. So,
wow.
And then
that's a lot for a young kid to carry. You know, my goodness, yeah. Yeah, Lydia, what about you? What's your background?
Yeah, I'm also an immigrant. I was born in El Salvador, and I came much older age than Alex. I came when I was 13, almost turning 14 in 2005. So for me, it was a different experience because I had an identity already. You know, I knew that I was Salvadorian. I knew that I was not from the United States. However, I did not know what, you know, being undocumented really meant until I actually was in senior high school, and everybody's talking about going to university, college, and having to, you know, apply for jobs and having a driver's license only, you know, until 16 years old and on. That's when you really realize, oh, wow, now I know what it's like, you know, what it means. What are the real repercussions of not having documentation, right? And so for me, it was kind of different and interesting growing up here because I came just in time for my freshman year in all of high school and learning a new language, you know, adapting to a new culture and meeting new people. I've always said this because in El Salvador, even ethnically, we're not really diverse. You know, everybody more or less looks the same. But here, obviously, seeing all different races and ethnicities, that was for me like a culture shock, and I was just trying to adapt myself. And so, you know, it changed my life completely. I was a very outspoken, I would say, quote unquote, socially healthy kid in El Salvador. When I came here, because of bullying and different experiences that I experienced in high school, I became very isolated, very shy, very like completely different person that I used to be before. So yeah, those things, those traumas, and you know, all those things come with I guess you know, a change, migration with status. And so but anyway, my life kind of changed a little bit more, obviously, with DACA. I'm currently a DACA recipient since 2012 when they announced it. In 2013 I got my permit, and then I was able to go to college, and you know, a lot of things got easier, right? It's a privilege in a way, you know, that made things a lot easier. And right now I'm focusing on film and documentary filmmaking specifically, and I kind of feel like it is my responsibility in a way to tell stories about my community and people who are, you know, in situations similar like mine, and that's kind of like what I've been doing ever since 2015. About 5 years I've been producing short documentaries relating to immigration, although in the future I do want to focus on other things, you know, like, you know, I am interested in fictional narratives and comedy and just some entertainment, right? But as of now, I feel like as an activist and filmmaker, I have to kind of like devote my time. That's kind of like how I feel, right? So yeah, that's kind of like a little bit about me.
Yeah, well, you're both using art to really tell important stories, your own stories. What do you really want to leave your audiences with? Like, what's really important that people take away from both the documentary as well as other activist films that you're making, Lydia, and also for you, Alex, from your performance? What do you want to leave your audiences with?
Well, Alex, if you don't mind, I can go chime in on this. For me, it is really about just humanizing the issues because, you know, a lot of people talk about DACA and quote unquote dreamers and immigrants and bad immigrants versus good immigrants and blah, blah, blah. And everybody feels entitled when they say this, oh yeah, oh, they shouldn't be here or yeah, they should be here. But a lot of people talk about out of ignorance and only whatever the media feeds them. And I think that, I just wanted to, once I connected with Alex in this case, in this documentary specifically, I just felt like obviously Alex's story is so similar to mine and to many other people. And it kind of tells really what it's like to be just human and, the legal repercussions of not having a status and all the things that we have to go through, that could be taken as a, how can I say, as something for granted, something that everybody has and it doesn't mean anything to other people, but to us, it makes all the difference. Like, there is one particular part in the documentary that always makes me laugh because I kind of feel the same. It's when Alice talks about going to the DMV and they're so excited about getting, being in line and waiting for 2 hours or whatever, just being excited because you're going to get a license, and everybody, when they go to the DMV, they're annoyed, they're angry, they're like, why am I here, So it's just those privileges and those things that make the whole difference in our lives, and people don't know that. And so hopefully, in the art that I create and also in this film that we collaborated with Alex, it's kind of like humanizing the issue of DACA and immigration and just the fact that we're humans and the fact that it's not only us, but also our parents. That's kind of like the ending message that I try to include in the film, that it is the real dreamers, in my opinion, are the parents, who sacrifice everything, who leave everything behind because, they grew up in their own countries and their own realities, and they had to leave everything behind, not knowing what was going to happen next in a new country, how they were going to be treated, in the situations that they were going to be forced to live in. But they all did it for the love of their kids, for the better future, right? So that's kind of like my narrative in a way. I want to change that narrative because they tried to put us in a box when I said DACA recipients or dreamers. Oh yeah, we're just students, good immigrants, and blah blah blah. But in reality, the real dreamers are our parents, and they also deserve to live how can I say, to be taken into account into this changes in narratives.
Definitely. Yeah, I think the humanizing is so important, and you hear that so many times when, some small town where someone's getting deported and everyone's like, wait, what do you mean? It also affects my neighbor. I know him. So getting the stories out there are so important. And I love what you said about parents and, telling their story, because their whole hope for you is, of course, having a better life. Yeah, Alex, what are your thoughts about just like what you want your audience to walk away with?
Well, I mean, just piggybacking off of what you just said in regards to, like, when somebody in a small border town is getting picked up by CBP or ICE, and they're like, wait, well, what about this person? I had a very similar experience. Prior to me creating Wet, a Documented Journey, there weren't any narratives about the undocumented community in the theater. And so, I remember when the show first came out, in the first 3 weekends, people started coming, friends that I've had for 20, 25 years came to see the show, and they were shocked. They were like, oh my God, you? No. Oh, and then suddenly all of these pieces in a puzzle in their mind about who I was as a human being in relation to them started clicking. They're like, oh my God, is that why is that why you didn't work when we were in college? Oh, is that why you didn't go with us on that trip? Is that why you weren't dropped? Oh my God, you know. And so it was a shock that people that know me and love me and have known me and loved me for many years suddenly were discovering the darkest secret in my life, because I was risking my freedom, I was risking my life by putting a target in front of me saying, look at me, I'm undocumented.
That took a lot of courage, for sure.
Thank you for saying that. I mean, people say that I don't feel that that's what it was. You know, I just felt like I needed to purge myself of that shame, because being undocumented comes with a lot of shame, comes with a lot of embarrassment. You know, you're always looked upon as the other. You're always looked upon as an unwanted guest in the country that you've known as your home the entirety of your life. And so one of the biggest things that I want and I still desire when people come to see the show, the impact that I hope for is for people to realize that we're human beings. Like, part of the reason why people can connect to the narrative of Wet and other narratives that are being put out there through undocumented filmmakers like Livieth and the network that she belongs to, and undocumented stories that are being put out through various platforms, is that we're human beings. We're people just like you. You know, we have good days, we have bad days. Like, one of the worst things that someone has ever said to me in an effort to compliment me is to tell me that my English is good. It's like, well, why wouldn't it be? It's my primary language. You know, I dream, I sleep, and I think in English. Why wouldn't it be, right? Is it because of the color of my skin? Is it because of, you know, or when people have told me to go back to where I come from, and I'm like, you mean Echo Park or South Central Los Angeles, or you mean East LA? You know, so there's a lot of ignorance that we're fighting here. There's a lot of internal racism that we're fighting here, because I feel like a lot of the times people come with the best intention, and they come with love in their hearts, and they say things not because they're trying to be hurtful or mean, but because they really don't know better. And it's kind of like what James Baldwin says, is that their ignorance constitutes the crime. At the same time, it's not our responsibility to teach people how to see us. It's not our responsibility to educate them. But if we have a platform and we can do that through our work, then the hope would be that they take the message, internalize it, work through their own prejudices, and hopefully not treat other people that way. You know, and so I start the show with I need you to see me in the fullness of my humanity, so that I may see you in the fullness of yours. You know, and so that's one of my biggest hopes, is that people come and see Wet and have an experience that our skin color is just that, it's external, you know. But we all have feelings, we all have family. You know, the story is about love and hope and reunification, and what it means to be home, and what it means to have a home. So yeah, I mean.
Yeah, for sure. The Supreme Court is about to rule any day now on the status of Obama's executive order. I'm sure it's incredibly stressful, beyond stressful, for so many people in your community. What are you most hoping will come out of that ruling, and what are you most concerned about? Lydia, if you want to start.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's definitely a difficult time. I am part of various networks, and there's one networking specific, you know, we have a group shot going on, and there is folks who are literally every day, you know, kind of like holding their breath, kind of like just, you know, checking, refreshing that page, you know, the Supreme Court page and the blog where they usually do the announcements, just checking, is it today? Is today going to be the day? You know, and just think about how that can really weigh onto your mental health and your just overall well-being, having to depend on a specific date. And the worst thing is that they keep on extending it. And so that anxiety continues going on and on and on. For me, I just wish we could just be done with, let's just have a decision right now, but I do know that obviously that's, right now it's easy to say that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm strong. I'm going to face it, whatever it is. I have an advantage that I knew what it's like to live without any type of documentation, it is not only to survive, but to thrive also, without a status. And so to me personally, I'm like, well, if that was taken away, obviously things are going to start, are going to be very difficult, but I know I can survive. But also there's other people who all they know is straight from high school, straight from being 16 years old, they got DACA and they don't know what's like, and so they might be in more of a, how can I say, more afraid, I will say, so a lot of things are happening, and sometimes for the own sake of my well-being, I kind of like push it to the side and continue moving forward with my own life, not thinking about it too much. But I do know that it's going to happen at any point. And I used to be very optimistic, thinking that things will work out for the better. But in a way, as of lately, I think it might be, the Supreme Court sides with the government, and we have something negative for DACA recipients. But really, there's no way to tell. And it's just a waiting game that it seems like it's going on and on and on, and I just want it to end, That's personally how I feel right now.
Yeah. Alex, what are you most hopeful for with the ruling, and what are you most concerned about?
I mean, I'm hopeful that they let DACA stand, and that they allow for new work permits to be issued and new applications to be processed. It reminds me of when I first applied for DACA in September of 2012, and I waited 6 months, and what Lydia was saying is just, every day checking the USCIS website, and I memorized my ID number, and I would type it in every hour, and there was no change in the status, and there was no change in the status, and then your application is being processed, and it's just like the level of anxiety and the level of uncertainty that we have to live through. It's just it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary for what? What's the point? What's the point of putting us through this? Like, we have to be perfect just to apply for DACA. I almost got denied my DACA application because I had one misdemeanor on my record. And every time I go for a job, they run a background check, and they always bring up that one misdemeanor on my record, and it's because of something that I had to do. It wasn't something that I was purposely trying to be a bad person and break the law. And I mean, that's just what it is. I hate to sound pessimistic, but I share the sentiment with Lydia. I have a feeling that, and I hope I'm wrong, but I have a feeling that the Supreme Court is going to side with the government. And if that happens, I don't know what's going to happen next. I just know that being undocumented is that's not a life. That's not a way of living. I lived that life for 30 years. I know what it's like to be homeless because I couldn't get a job, because I couldn't make enough money to pay rent. Having to drive a car, knowing that I could get pulled over at any time, have the car taken away from me, getting put into a detention center because I didn't have proper identification. Like, these are real circumstances that they're doing to us. They're putting us through for no good reason. We've done nothing wrong. We've done nothing wrong. We don't deserve this.
What actions can allies take? Is there anything to be done with petitioning our lawmakers? Voting obviously is important. I know that this is an executive order. Is there something that we can do to pressure Congress? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. I think that regardless of the situation, if it's a positive or negative one, I think that we have to really, how can I say, educate is not the word, but we have to push U.S. citizens who are eligible to vote to change that. The Senate. I have my own personal feelings about Democrats and Republicans, because they're, yeah, those are my personal feelings about them. But I think in a way, we could do a little bit better with Democrats on the Senate. So, just change that, that Senate, and also the presidency. Hopefully, I really do hope. It's one thing that I hope we're not gonna get another 4 years of Trump. I hope. So we have to really push people to really go out and vote. Because if they don't do that, then we could be petitioning lawmakers, the ones that we have, some of the allies that we already have. It really doesn't make a difference if we cannot, if we have a dysfunctional Congress where we have our House of Rep who says one thing, and then the Senate says another thing, and they just can't compromise, and they can't agree on anything. So
yeah,
I think for me, that's what we need to do.
Yeah. Alex, any last thoughts on what allies can do to be supportive right now, if anything?
Just be compassionate. I've been saying this for years. Treat people with kindness, with love, with respect. You have the power to change this. If you can, go out and vote. It's not okay to be complicit. It's not okay to sit on the sidelines anymore and to be quiet. If you really care about your friends and your neighbors and your community and people of color, go out and vote. Go out and make a difference. Go make your voices heard. This is there's no longer any room for you to just sit back and pretend that this isn't happening, or because it's not happening to you, it's somehow not going to affect you. I promise that it will. I promise that anything that you do right now, whether it's positive or negative, will have an impact, and it's going to affect you for a very long time. Just treat people with love and respect. See us for our humanity. See us for our not the color of our skin, but the merit of our character, for our ethics and our morals and our values, and see that we're all the same people.
Thank you so much for that. We're really looking forward to coronavirus being a thing of the past, to bringing you to Chicago someday to perform. And in the meantime, we're so grateful for your time today in conversation, and also to have Lydia's documentary about your show and your national tour up on our website at pivotarts.org/festival. Thank you so much. So great to be with you guys today.
Likewise, thank you.